You don't remember when you went under. That's the first problem. 1 second, you were floating, lazy, weightless, staring up at the fractured sunlight dancing across the surface. The kind of peaceful silence people pay for in meditation apps. Your ears filled with the dull hum of water. Your body suspended like nothing in the world could touch you. And then, something did. Not sharp, not violent. Just there. A brush against your ankle. Soft, slippery, almost gentle. You flinch. Your leg kicks instinctively, disturbing the stillness. Ripples bloom outward, distorting the light above you. For a moment, you wait, holding your breath, listening. Nothing, of course, just weeds. Just your imagination filling in blanks your brain doesn't like leaving empty. You almost relax, almost, because 3 seconds later, it comes back. This time it doesn't brush. It closes, a hand. Cold in a way water shouldn't be. Not surface level cold. The kind that seeps in, settles into your bones, like it's been waiting there longer than you've been alive. Your lungs tighten. You kick harder now, panic creeping in through your ribs. Your other leg thrashes, searching for leverage that isn't there. The water resists every movement, thick and uncooperative, turning your strength into something clumsy. The grip tightens. Not aggressive, not rushed, just certain. You try to pull your leg free, but the angle is wrong. Your body twists awkwardly, sending a sharp sting through your side. Air bubbles escape your mouth in a sudden burst, racing upward. Tiny silver betrayals of how fast your breathing is unraveling. You look down, and that's the second problem. Because whatever is holding you doesn't look back. There's no face, no clear shape, just a distortion beneath you. A darker patch where light refuses to settle. Something long and drifting. Hair maybe, moving in slow deliberate currents that don't match the water around it. And then you feel it. Another hand, higher this time. Your calf. Your heart slams against your chest so hard it almost hurts. The sound of it fills your head, louder than the water, louder than your thoughts. You try to scream, but all that leaves you is a violent stream of bubbles that claw their way to the surface you're no longer sure you can reach. The pull increases, still not sudden, still not fast, but stronger, measured, like it knows exactly how much force it needs, and exactly how long you have left. You kick, you twist, you fight in every direction at once, your movements losing rhythm, losing purpose. The more you struggle, the heavier your body feels. Your limbs slow, your chest burns. You're not swimming anymore. You're failing to, and that's when it happens. Your foot slips lower, just a few inches, but enough. Enough for your body to realize something your mind hasn't fully processed yet. You're not being pulled down, you're being replaced. That wasn't panic. That wasn't your imagination. That was contact. With something documented, repeated, ignored just often enough to keep happening. They call it Mul-Gwi-Shin, a water-bound entity found in Korean folklore. But entity might be giving it too much personality. It doesn't hunt the way predators do. It doesn't chase. It doesn't roar. It waits. Because it doesn't need to win. It just needs you to lose control. And the worst part, it doesn't want you dead. It wants you to stay. You were never supposed to know its name. Because once you do, the next time your foot touches water, your brain won't treat it the same way again. The silence won't feel peaceful. The cold won't feel refreshing. It will feel occupied. Mul-Gwi-Shin isn't a creature in the traditional sense. It doesn't have a fixed shape, no defined anatomy you can map out like some biology textbook diagram. There's no weak point, no glowing core, no convenient horror movie rule that says if you do X, you survive. That would be too generous. At its core, Mul-Gwi-Shin is what happens when death gets stuck. In Korean folklore, those who die by drowning don't always move on. Not because they're angry, not because they're vengeful, but because they're incomplete. Their final moment, panic, suffocation, disorientation, doesn't resolve. It loops, over and over again. a system error with no shutdown command, and like any broken system, it tries to fix itself. The rule is simple, brutal, efficient. If you take someone else's place, you get to leave. No negotiation, no exceptions, no moral debate, just a silent underwater contract that you never agreed to, but are still fully eligible for. That's why Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't rush you. Think about it. A predator needs speed, needs surprise, needs to overpower you before you react. Mul-Gwi-Shin, it needs you to panic. Because panic does something fascinating to the human body. Your breathing becomes erratic. Your movements lose coordination. Your muscles burn through oxygen faster than you can replenish it. The more you fight, the faster you fail. In other words, you do most of the work for it. What you felt earlier, the initial touch, that wasn't an attack. That was a test, a calibration, a way for it to measure how quickly you break. And once it knows that, everything else becomes predictable. Your kicks, your gasps, the exact moment your strength gives out, the exact second your body stops responding the way you want it to. Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't need to be strong, it just needs to be patient. And water is the perfect accomplice. It muffles sound, distorts vision, slows movement, turns your own environment into resistance. Every second you spend in it, you're not just fighting something below you, you're fighting physics. And physics doesn't care if you survive. Now here's the detail most people ignore. Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't always appear as a clear figure. Sometimes it's just a density in the water, a shadow that shouldn't be there, a temperature shift that your skin notices before your brain does. That's why so many reports sound the same. They thought it was weeds. They thought it was a current. They thought it was nothing until it wasn't. Because by the time you realize something is actually holding you, you're already behind. And that brings us to the part you probably won't like. You weren't targeted. You weren't chosen. You just entered the system. And right now, you're still assuming you'd react differently, that you'd stay calm, that you'd think clearly, that you'd outswim something that doesn't need to breathe. That confidence? That's not an advantage. That's exactly what it's waiting for. By the time you realize something is wrong, it's already too late to fix it cleanly. Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't begin with violence. It begins with uncertainty, a subtle disruption in what your brain expects water to feel like. Because your body has rules for swimming, predictable resistance, familiar drag, manageable buoyancy. This breaks those rules. The first stage is contact, not a grab, not yet, a brush, a glide. Something that mimics the natural world just enough to avoid triggering immediate panic. Your brain runs through its checklist, plants, debris, current, and picks the least threatening answer. That hesitation, that's your opening mistake. Because while you're busy rationalizing, it's measuring. Mul-Gwi-Shin tests you the way a system tests input. It observes how fast your muscles react, how violently you kick, whether you freeze or fight. Every micro movement you make sends information through the water, and water carries everything: vibration, pressure, intention. You are not hidden in it, you are broadcasted through it. The second stage is confirmation. That's when the contact returns, with purpose. The grip forms, not explosive, not aggressive, just firm enough that when you pull away, it doesn't follow your logic. It resists at an angle that feels wrong, like trying to move through a space that suddenly developed a preference. Your body doesn't like that. Your instincts spike. And this is where most people fail. Because panic doesn't look dramatic underwater. There's no screaming, no thrashing that anyone can hear. It's internal, chaotic, inefficient. Your breathing accelerates, fast, shallow, uncontrolled. You try to inhale against water that doesn't allow negotiation. Your chest tightens, your diaphragm spasms, and suddenly every second feels shorter than the last. You kick harder. But here's the problem. Force without direction is just exhaustion. Mul-Gwi-Shin increases pressure gradually. It doesn't need to overpower you in one motion. It layers resistance on top of your own struggle, letting you burn through your strength while it remains unchanged, steady, waiting. The third stage is destabilization. This is where your body betrays you. Your movements lose rhythm. Your limbs stop sinking. One leg kicks up while the other is dragged down. Your arms overcorrect, pushing water instead of propelling you through it. You begin to rotate slightly, your orientation slipping just enough that up and down stop feeling absolute. And once you lose your sense of direction, you lose time, because now every movement is a guess. Every second is a gamble. The light above you flickers through shifting water, no longer a stable target. It stretches, bends, fractures into something distant and unreliable. Your brain knows you need to reach it, but your body can't agree on how. And beneath you, the pull remains consistent, unemotional, precise. This is the fourth stage, extraction. Mul-Gwi-Shin tightens its hold, not in a sudden jerk, but in a controlled escalation. By now, your oxygen is low, your muscles are heavy, your thoughts are fragmented, reduced to one singular directive, air. But air requires upward motion, and you are no longer moving up. You are being guided down, not dragged, guided, because the most efficient way to take your place is to let you arrive there yourself. You kick one last time, desperate, uneven, fueled by whatever your body has left. For a brief second, you feel lighter, closer to the surface, closer to escape, and then something shifts. A second point of contact, higher, your other leg. Balance disappears instantly. Your body tilts, your center of gravity collapses, and whatever progress you made is erased in a single quiet correction. No splash, no noise, just a silent adjustment, like a piece being moved into position. And in that moment, right before your strength gives out completely, you understand something most people never get the chance to process. This was never a fight. It was a transfer. Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't rush because it doesn't have to. It doesn't miss because it doesn't aim. It doesn't fail because failure isn't part of the system. And the deeper you go, the calmer the water becomes. Almost peaceful, almost still, like nothing ever happened, which is perfect. Because from the surface, it didn't. You like to think you'd do better. That's the comforting lie most people carry into situations like this. The quiet belief that when things go wrong, you'll stay calm, think clearly, react correctly, that you'll be the exception. Statistically, you won't, and Mul-Gwi-Shin counts on that. The first mistake is confidence. You tell yourself you can swim. Maybe you even can. Pools, beaches, controlled environments where the variables are limited and the bottom isn't actively participating. But water isn't the problem. Your assumptions are. Because knowing how to swim doesn't prepare you for something that changes the rules mid-motion. It doesn't train your body for resistance that adapts, for a force that doesn't behave like current, like gravity, or like anything your muscles recognize. So when your leg is held, your brain hesitates. Just for a second. And that second, that's all it needs. The second mistake is isolation. You go in alone, not because you're reckless, because it's normal, because people do it all the time. A quick swim, a moment to relax. No need to call attention, no need to stay close. And when something goes wrong, there's no one to notice the difference between you diving and you disappearing. From the surface, both look the same, a ripple, then stillness. The third mistake is panic. This one isn't optional. You don't choose to panic. Your body does it for you. Your nervous system flips a switch and suddenly everything accelerates. Your heart, your breathing, your thoughts, too fast, too loud, too disorganized. You inhale when you shouldn't. You exhale too much when you can't afford to. Your chest tightens, your throat locks, and every attempt to stabilize yourself just makes it worse. And here's the part people underestimate. Panic burns oxygen. Fast. Faster than movement, faster than effort, faster than logic. So even if you had the strength to break free, you don't have the time. The fourth mistake is looking down. Curiosity, verification. Your brain wants confirmation. It wants to replace fear with information, to label the unknown so it becomes manageable. So you look, and in that moment, everything stops. Not the water, not the pull, you. Because what you see doesn't resolve into something your mind can process quickly. It's incomplete, distorted, almost human, but not in a way that gives you anything useful to react to. Your thoughts stall, your body follows, and Mul-Gwi-Shin adjusts. The fifth mistake is trying to fight it directly. You kick harder, you pull upward, you throw strength at something that isn't contesting you in the way you expect. There's no resistance you can overpower, no direction you can exploit. Because it's not trying to beat you, it's letting you exhaust yourself. Every movement you make without a clear vector, every desperate push, every frantic kick adds to the same outcome. Fatigue, disorientation, loss of control. You are not losing to it. You are accelerating toward the result it needs. And finally, the sixth mistake. You trust your instincts. Normally that's a good thing. On land, your instincts keep you alive. They tell you when to run, when to hide, when to fight. They're built on patterns your body understands. But underwater, your instincts betray you. They tell you to thrash, to inhale, to move faster, harder, more aggressively. Exactly the opposite of what would give you a chance. And Mul-Gwi-Shin, it doesn't need to trick you. It just needs to wait for you to listen to yourself. By the time you realize that every reaction you've had has made things worse, your body is already too tired to correct it, your lungs too empty, your thoughts too scattered, and somewhere beneath all of that, still holding, still steady, still patient, Mul-Gwi-Shin isn't dangerous because it's strong. It's dangerous because everything you naturally do helps it finish the process. So, you want a way out. That's bold. Because by this point, most escape tactics people talk about are just recycled optimism dressed up as advice. Stay calm, control your breathing, swim upward. Sounds great until something is physically preventing all three. But let's assume, just for a moment, you recognize what's happening early enough. That the first contact doesn't get dismissed. That your brain doesn't waste those critical seconds trying to rationalize it away. That's your only real advantage. Time. A very small amount of it. The first rule is simple. Don't panic. Yes, that sounds like the kind of useless advice people give right before things go catastrophically wrong. But here's the difference. Panic is not just emotional. It's mechanical. The more you panic, the more chaotic your movements become. Aren't you? The more chaotic your movements, the more energy you waste, and the faster your oxygen disappears. Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't need to pull harder if you're already suffocating yourself. So you force stillness. Not completely, but enough to interrupt the spiral. Short, controlled movements, minimal kicks. You reduce your surface area. Stop broadcasting unnecessary motion through the water. You don't fight it like an enemy. You treat it like pressure. The second rule, direction matters more than force. Most people try to yank their leg free in the same direction they feel resistance. That's instinct, and it's wrong. Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't hold you like a rope, it holds you like an angle. So instead of pulling directly away, you twist, you rotate your hip, change the vector, break the alignment it's using against you. It's not guaranteed to work. In fact, most of the time it won't. But it buys you something, a fraction of slack, and sometimes a fraction is enough. The third rule, up is non-negotiable. No matter what you feel below you, no matter how strong the pull becomes, your entire focus stays on vertical escape. Not sideways, not backward. Up. Because air is the only win condition. Everything else is delay. But here's where reality starts to settle in. Even if you do everything right, even if you stay calm, conserve energy, and somehow break partial contact, you're still in the water, still in range. And Mul-Gwi-Shin, it doesn't get tired. It doesn't get frustrated. It just repositions. Which leads to the fourth rule. You don't win by outlasting it. You win by leaving its environment. That means reaching the surface is only step one. You need distance, immediate physical distance from the water itself, shore, edge, anything that removes you from direct contact. Because staying in the water, yet even for a few extra seconds, is an invitation for a second attempt. And the second attempt, you won't have the same strength. Now let's talk about the part no one likes to admit. Most people won't execute this perfectly. Not because they're weak, because they're human. Your body will panic. Your instincts will override logic. Your muscles will misfire at the worst possible moment. And Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't need perfection from you. It just needs consistency. Consistency in failure. Which is why, in modern settings, it's almost laughably easy for it. You go on a trip. You find a quiet lake. No lifeguards. No noise. Just still water and a good view. You step in, maybe take a picture, maybe swim out a little further than you should. Because it looks safe. Because it feels calm. Because nothing about it suggests that something is already there. Waiting, not hunting, not chasing. Just existing within a system that you unknowingly entered the moment you broke the surface. And if you make it out, if you reach the shore, lungs burning, body shaking, convinced you just had the worst close call of your life, pay attention to what comes next. The dreams, the way water starts to feel different, heavier, more present, like it's not just something you're in, but something that's aware of you being there. You might hear it, not loudly, not clearly, but enough. A faint internal echo, the sensation of movement beneath still surfaces. The feeling that if you stayed just a little longer, something would reach you again. Because escaping once doesn't mean you were removed from the system. It might just mean you weren't processed correctly. And Mul-Gwi-Shin? It's very good at correcting errors. So here you are, breathing, alive, still on the right side of the surface. And statistically speaking, that already puts you ahead of most people who ever triggered contact. Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't leave evidence the way you expect. No marks, no witnesses, no dramatic signs that something unnatural occurred. From above, the water resets itself almost instantly. Ripples fade, reflections stabilize. The surface goes back to pretending it was never disturbed. Which means every confirmed case looks the same on paper. Accidental drowning, unfortunate timing, a swimmer who overestimated their ability, clean, explainable, easy to forget. That's the efficiency of the system. No noise, no questions, just replacement, because that's all it was ever designed to do. You don't defeat Mul-Gwi-Shin, you don't outsmart it. At best, you exit before the process completes. And even then, exit might be too optimistic a word, because something changes. Maybe subtle, maybe psychological, maybe just enough to sit in the back of your mind the next time you step near water. The hesitation, the awareness, the feeling that the surface isn't just a boundary, it's a threshold, and thresholds go both ways. So let's quantify your chances, not based on heroism, not based on confidence, based on behavior, awareness, timing, control under pressure, all the things humans are notoriously inconsistent at when oxygen becomes a limited resource. Survival chance, 8%. That's assuming you recognize the contact early, that you don't panic immediately, that your body listens to logic instead of instinct, that you reach the surface before your strength collapses, that you get out of the water fast enough. Stack all of those together and you get a number that isn't zero. You're just close enough to make you think it matters. Here's the uncomfortable part. Most people watching this will walk away thinking, I'd be in that 8%. Statistically, that confidence is exactly why the number stays so low. Because Mul-Gwi-Shin doesn't rely on rarity. It relies on repetition. And water is everywhere. So the next time you step into it, whether it's a quiet lake, a river, or somewhere that feels just a little too still, pay attention to the temperature, to the silence, to anything that feels slightly off. Because if something does touch your leg, you won't get a warning, you'll get a test. And if you fail it, you won't be the first, you won't be the last. You'll just be next. Stay above the surface while you still can.